it's Sam from Nth Engine Gaming here. Today we're starting a playthrough of Cities Skylines. I have played the game before, but I recently bought the major DLCs, including the new mass transit, which adds a lot of public transport options and functionality to the game. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along, but for now we have a map downloaded from the Steam Workshop called Lugo Galicia by Mr. Miyagi, which I have modified, the reason being I've looked at a lot of reasonably rural European looking maps for a while, and I lack the creativity to make my own suited. And this one I found was pretty much what I'm looking for. So let's dive in and have a look. First thing is the river. I've always wanted a map that has what I know to be a realistically wide river, which is not very wide at all. All maps seem to have ludicrously wide rivers, with quite steep banks. I've made a bit of a compromise here. I've raised the water level to have more realistic banks, but it has made the river nearly as wide as standard rivers in this game. So I've changed the road system a lot. 2 main motorways, one running east and west, you can see here. One branching off that, northwest to southwest. I've also added a dual carriageway from the southwest to the east, and off of that, another dual carriageway running north to the starting area. Now you can see it does stop short, and I've changed it into a B road. The reason for that is to add a little bit extra difficulty or cost. Over here I've added a roundabout. I'll be using a lot of roundabouts as they're a staple of British roads. Now train tracks, again I've tried to make these a little more British. At the edge of the map you've got your traditional two-way tracks running parallel to one another, and then they go into this rather ugly looking but functional point system that allows any train coming from any way on any track to get to the correct side. Because what I've done is I've made 2 tracks on one side go up one way, 2 tracks on the other side come down the other, making it a main line. Though there is only technically 1 track running through the map, trains will be coming from 4 different outside connections, which means that there'll be a lot more traffic on this one line, making it more realistic and a little bit more challenging. Now, this map is very roughly based on the place I live. As such, I've added a lovely Roman-ish castle atop the main starting hill area. With that, that's really all there is to the map. That's all the changes I've made from the one on the Steam Workshop. All I can really do now is get into the game. Okay, so here we go, ready to start up the game. As you can see, I've called the city engine down. I've set it to left-hand drive traffic. You can see natural resources, there's no oil, there's very little ore, there's just a margin amount more farming resources and a fair amount of forestry. Water is very little, and the outside connections are highway, train and plane. No water connections because obviously the rivers are too small. Building area is suitable at 89%, which is quite good, and my map theme is European with a custom map theme which is in my Steam Workshop collection. So as we can see as we start it up, let's start by building some roads and zoning the areas next to them. Buildings will spawn on the zoned areas and you will unlock new city services and buildings as your city grows. For help, click on the question mark. So I have a literal fuck ton of mods enabled for this game. The base game itself is very good without mods, even more so with the DLC. I've tried to steer clear of mods that make the game easier as it were, although certain things like Traffic Manager do add a lot of options and functionality deployed in the real world, and do, by extension, make the game easier, but in a way I personally don't feel is cheating. The closest I would say I come to cheating is the achievement enabler, but I personally feel I shouldn't be barred from achievements just because I want to choose what lanes go where on a roundabout. For this map I'll be deploying a lot of features that typical English cities use, for the most part narrow and curving roads, smaller houses clumped closer together and quite a lot of parks and greenery. So from now on, I'll fast forward the footage I feel is boring and only slow down the footage to rate my thinking during certain points. So the reason I'm zoning like this is to achieve the smaller houses I want. By placing spaced 1x2 zoning grids down, I avoid the bigger houses and shops I don't want from spawning in. After a house or shop has been built in this zone, I fill in the gaps to produce more smaller houses and shops. So here, I don't particularly want to put a wind turbine near the castle. However, at the moment, it's the best place I have available for wind. So as soon as I find a better solution, I'll use that. Always remember while placing water pumps and outlets to place the pumps upstream and the outlets downstream, as the outlets produce sewage, and a water pump placed in sewage will make your citizens sick. So here I'm using Traffic Manager to turn this junction into our traditional British give-way junction. The idea being that the two roads with the white and orange diamonds have right of way over the road with the red triangle. This can be used in many combinations of ways to improve traffic flow on busy roads, particularly with heavy traffic going one way on a junction. So here of course is showing off what I was talking about, which is narrow roads quite tightly woven together and small houses within those to make it quite a small compact city, quite tightly knit. So here's a nice feature added by Mass Transit. I believe it's also in the base game, but I could be wrong. Simply click a road and you have the option to track traffic. Right now we're seeing PEDs, cars and trucks. This feature allows you to see where traffic's going and why, further helping you to improve route options. So here I'm planning on facilitating the castle as a tourist hotspot. As such, I'm putting a road through it using a tool called Move It, also in my mod collection. I'm going to leave it here for now and come back to it at a later date for beautification. So I've just attracted enough citizens to be classed as a little hamlet. As such, I've unlocked a few things. You can see here I've unlocked the ability to change taxes, take loans, as well as trash, healthcare and educational facilities. Here I'm going to put to use one of the new services and put down a rubbish tip. Throughout my time playing, I've not really picked up any tips for placing these other than the standard not too close to residential and make sure it's accessible. Possibly surround it with trees to reduce noise pollution, which I might do later. I'm also going to put down a medical clinic, unlocked at my last milestone, to keep the citizens of my city healthy. Pretty standard affair, make sure it has good connections for ambulances to get around the city to collect patients. And I'm also going to plop down an elementary school to provide my citizens with basic education. More educated citizens work more skilled jobs, are happier, and produce less rubbish to be picked up. So here I'm just going to finish off this episode by making a small estate with one-way streets and parking on one side. I would quite like to see priority roads as a thing, but to my knowledge they don't exist on the Steam Workshop. So please leave a like, subscribe. If you have any comments, suggestions or feedback, please leave a comment below. I've been Sam from the Nth Engine Gaming. Goodbye.